Hi, I'm Tinny from Mini Bull Design, and today I'm up here in the studio. Real cold, wet day. It rained pretty much all day. It was really overcast and really foggy all day. Not a real good day for being outside. Although I spent some time out in the hammock with an underquilt and an overquilt, laying there just watching the birds and enjoying the fresh air. Now today, for lack of anything else to do, I'm going to talk about alcohol stoves. I've gotten a few emails from different people who are just getting to the point now where they want to switch from their canister stove to an alcohol stove. And I've talked with a few of these people by email. And this is the thing that I want to address and explain. A lot of them are running a canister stove and they're boiling, 2 liters of water, and they've goofed around with the soda can stove a little bit. And they want to switch from a heavy canister stove and all that to alcohol, as near as I can tell, just to save weight. But none of them seem to want to go to a small, efficient pot. They want to go to alcohol stove, but they want to use 2-liter titanium pots and aluminum windscreens and all the old technology. So, let me explain my opinion of alcohol stoves and pots. The bigger your pot, the more alcohol you're going to use to boil your water. Because when you go to boil water, before you can bring the water to 212 to a boil, you have to bring the pot to 212. And a pot is just a giant heat sink. The bottom of it absorbs heat and the sides wick off heat. So the bigger the pot, the more metal you have to heat up, and the bigger surface area you have to carry heat away. So if you're going to boil 2 cups of water, you're way better off to use a 10 centimeter than a 12 centimeter. And you always want to use a good lid to hold the heat in, because if you take the lid off, you've got a huge place for the heat to escape, and it won't build up as fast. Now, that having been said, the pot has got to be big enough so that if you're going to cook your meal in the pot, it has to be big enough so that when you get done boiling your water, you've got room for your meal. So if you're going to cook your meal in your pot, by default you're going to have to use a larger pot. Whereas if you're boiling water to put in a freezer bag, you don't need a bigger pot, and it will be more efficient. That also will take care of simmering, because if you put the boiling water in the freezer bag and put it in a cozy or wrap it up in a sweatshirt, that's just the same as simmering, because the heat is trapped in there. Okay, second point. The less heat your stove produces, the longer it's going to take to boil the water, but the more efficient it's going to be. And there's a reason for that. Now, to a certain point in both directions. This pot can only absorb heat at a given rate. The more heat you put under it, the faster it'll absorb it. But also the more heat you put under it, the more you'll lose. And if you double the heat underneath the stove, you won't cut the boil time in half. You'll only cut it by about 20%. And the rest of that heat will just go up and go into the air. So it's very wasteful. So a really hot stove is a very inefficient stove. The most efficient stove is a small, low heat stove. And since efficiency is the big thing with alcohol, because it is so minimal, and weight, the smaller the stove, the better. It's more efficient, and the stove by default is lighter weight and uses less fuel. But you can get down to the point where you're losing heat from the pot almost as fast as you're gaining it, and the boil time will be ridiculous, like 20 minutes. So you have to have a certain amount of heat, and there is a sweet spot. I think the Bongo Original in a 10 centimeter pot with 2 cups of water is a sweet spot. So that's something to take into account. But bottom line, if you're a person that boils 2 liters of water with a canister stove and you don't want to go to a different pot, and you want to continue to boil 2 liters of cold water in the wind, probably without a windscreen, alcohol's not for you. Alcohol has its place. It's like a 2-stroke motor. They're great for weed whackers, great for dirt bikes, but not really that well suited to an automobile. They have their place, but when you start getting up to a certain size, you lose all the advantages because you're going to burn a lot more alcohol, and the stove's going to be physically just as heavy and about the same efficiency or less efficient than a canister stove. So you have to take that into consideration. Now, this what I've just told you is not something you're going to hear from very many alcohol stove builders, as few of us as there are, because it's kind of a deal killer for a lot of sales. People that were going to rush out and buy an alcohol stove to replace their canister stove after this video may not do that. Now, I have to ask myself, what's better? To have good sales, but have the customer be totally dissatisfied with the stove because it's not hot enough for him, or have less sales, but have everybody happy with the item they purchase? I'm going to go with B. I don't want anybody to mislead anybody into thinking that alcohol stoves are well designed for high volume situations. They're not. I did make a K-Cab, which is designed to cook right on the kitchen table. Be perfectly honest, I think you'd be better off with a canister stove, or you actually, in that situation where weight is not an issue, I think you'd be way ahead of the game with a Coleman propane stove that runs on a propane bottle or Coleman fuel. But some people just like alcohol. The K-Cab works. Alcohol is fairly easy to come by, and if weight is not an issue, you can have as many bottles as you want, and it'll work fine. But the Coleman stove is adjustable, cheaper to run, and hotter, so your call. And probably not any more expensive. But I'm making the video so that people will understand the limitations of alcohol, and I want everybody to be happy. I don't want people to buy these with all kinds of expectations that aren't going to come true. That's a nightmare. So, that's a reason for that. I'm Tinny from Mini Bull Design. Try to have a really great day, and try to have some fun today. You deserve it. Bye-bye.